It looked like somebody was bent over and had their head in the window of the deer blind. It either heard me or smelt me, and he pulled his head out of the tent and stood straight up, and that shocked me. They don't make people that big.
The way it moved, almost as if it was gliding across the beach. I've never seen anything move like that in my life. They were screaming at each other in gibberish. It sounded like a language, and they were chuntering away back and forwards, back and forwards, back and forwards. I know what a bear looks like, and there is no way on this planet that what I saw were bears.
What are you reporting?
Jesus Christ, you better...
Sir?
Gia!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh.
I recently got a COVID vaccine. Everything went great. No side effects. My name is
您好，我是能使您的网站拥有语音合成。
and you're listening to Sasquatch Chronicles.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. Got a great show planned for you. We're going to be chatting with Ryan, and Ryan comes to us from Missouri. He was actually out with his dad hunting and had a very strange encounter. I'll kind of let Ryan go into it. We're also going to be chatting with Bill, and Bill comes to us from Oregon, and he had an encounter. He was kind of touring the country with him and his friends, and had this very strange encounter out there near Crater Lake. If you've had an encounter and you'd like to be on the show, shoot me an email. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. Let's jump into it tonight. I want to welcome Ryan to the show. Ryan, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Ryan. And I know your encounter took place back in 2013 in Missouri. If you would you just kind of take us back to that moment? Tell us what you were doing and walk us into what happened.
All right. It was either the first or second weekend of November 2013-ish. It's either 2013 or 2014. We were hunting on some family friends' property in Bollinger County, Missouri. The area is in between the Castor River and Grassy, if anybody knows where that's at. We were hunting there. It's really secluded. It's about 10,000 to 15,000 acres. It's all private land. They do some farming back there, but not a whole lot. There's a bunch of cows and whatnot. But we were hunting. It was pretty cold. It was rainy. I think it had even started to sleet a little bit. And me and my dad, which I'm 30, and so my dad was, he's in his late 40s or so at the time. So we weren't like too old or anything. But we were out there in the weather, and in this little bitty one-man blind, it was so small that like I could stand up and touch both sides of it. It was just really, really small. We were sitting on this little field that we had done a food plot in. This field ran adjacent to a small little creek that came off the Castor River. And behind that was a hill. It's a pretty steep hill. I don't know if anybody's been up there. At least we haven't been. So that kind of brings it up to the day. It was about, I'm guessing, in between probably, it was an afternoon. It wasn't getting dark yet, but it was about to get dark. So in between about 3:30 to 4:30 type time period, and so it started getting cold. It's kind of sleeted a little bit, and we've been there all day long. My dad likes to go hunting like about an hour before it gets light outside. I mean, pitch dark, so you're stumbling around in the dark, and then he stays there all day. We don't leave, and then we're there until dark. So we're there literally all day long. So we'd sat there for, man, probably, it seemed like 12 hours or so, and not really seeing anything, seeing some birds, squirrels. There's always tons of squirrels up there. And we were in this blind, and kind of behind us in that creek, we started to hear it didn't sound like a deer. If you hear deer in a creek, they're kind of quick. You could tell if it's four-legged or two-legged. And it just like whatever was in the creek was kind of sloshing real heavy, and which kind of struck us odd. And right before that had happened, everything got super quiet, really eerie feeling. If you're in the woods at any time, it's always really loud. There's birds and turkeys and squirrels, and just there's stuff running around all the time. People think it's quiet in the woods. It's really not if you've been there for any period of time. We heard this sloshing behind us, and then we started to hear what sounded like trees falling down into the creek. And this creek is just a couple inches. You could wade through it, no problem, with your shoes getting wet. And plus it was in the towards the winter time, so it was kind of low anyways. But we heard this trees going behind us, and we're like, what the heck is going on? And we didn't look because we could have turned behind us. There's a little window in the blind. We were scared, man. It was just as weird sounds, and then all of a sudden the whatever was behind us kind of got directly behind the tent or the blind, and it was probably 20, 30, 40 yards, something like that. It wasn't directly behind us, like touching the tent, but it was enough to where, it was behind us. And in the woods, when it's kind of, quiet like that, everything had gone dead, and you could tell it was behind us. So it let out this weird vocalization that sounded, the only way I can describe it is it sounded like guttural Asian. And just the background on me, I'm a historical preservation major, as well as I took Japanese in college. So I'm familiar with, the Asian language. And that's the closest I could think of that it sounded to me. It did not sound like an animal. I've heard pigs, I've heard deer, I've heard, moose, elk. I've heard everything, right? We do woods quite a bit. We're a hunting family. I had never heard anything like that in my life. And I'm going to try to recreate this sound. And don't make fun of me or anything, because it sounds really weird. And the only thing I can describe it as is an Asian language or a monster. That was the first thing that popped in my head when I heard it. So it was something like this. Like this really weird, this sound. And man, me and my dad looked at each other when this happened, and it scared the crap out of us. We're two grown men. We've got guns in our hands. I did not turn around. If I turned around, I probably could have saw it. I was too scared to turn around. I did not want to see whatever made that noise see me, because I did not know if they knew we were there or not. We leave the blind out year round, so they were probably used to seeing the blind, but they probably caught our scent. So we heard that, and it kind of stopped for about a minute or two or three, and then it continued doing what it was doing, going through the creek and just heading back up that hill. And we continued hunting the rest of the day. It was maybe about 30 minutes or so. And then we called it a day. We went back to see if we could see any evidence or anything of whatever the heck it was. I didn't really think Sasquatch at the time. I just thought, I don't know what that is. And that scared me that I did not know what it was, because that normally doesn't happen. Yeah. And so we really didn't see a whole lot. There was some trees down in the creek. I'd say, you could put your hand around the tree. So it was probably maybe 1.5, 2 inch diameter little saplings. And whatever it was strong enough to literally rip them out of the ground and throw them into the creek. I couldn't have done that. If a person tried to do that, they just bend them because they're young trees. And so whatever it was, just pulled them straight out and threw them into the creek. I don't know if they were doing that for territory or what. But that kind of sums up that day's encounter of whatever it was that I encountered.
Yeah, it's terrifying, especially hearing that in person when you're not expecting it. You're kind of stuck in a deer blind. And then to hear the whole forest go quiet, you hear trees being knocked over, and then this thing vocalizing at you. I'm curious, when you heard it, at the beginning of the show, I play Claire's encounter, and I play some vocalizations going on while Claire's talking. Were they similar to that from what you remember?
It was, man. It was, after hearing that and kind of digging into the Bigfoot, a little bit more, it reminded me of the Sierra Sounds, where they're